Alright, the first hand I've got here was played by a student of mine a few months ago, and I included it because it incorporates a lot of the key points we went over during the lesson. The villain in this hand is playing a very loose 52-30 through 55 hands, and after he decides to open for pot in the cutoff, we put in a 3-bet from the button with ace, king, jack 5 single suited. Now, the obvious question to ask is, what do we think about 3-betting in this spot? A beginning player that looks at this hand history might think it's bad because, after all, we're only suited to the king, and the 5 in our hand serves as a pretty bad dangler. So that means that we should just fold and move on to the next hand, right? Wrong. Let's take a closer look at the hand and see how it fits into everything we talked about earlier. Remember that the three characteristics in a hand that make it a good candidate to 3-bet are raw equity, lack of nuttiness, and smooth equity distribution. The fact that this hand is only suited to the king should encourage you to 3-bet it more than if it was suited to the ace, although it's important to mention that if I was suited to the ace, I'd still 3-bet it against this particular opponent. Additionally, ace, king, jack 5 single suited has good raw equity because of the presence of 3 connected Broadway cards, and its equity distribution is pretty smooth because it's single suited and has decent connectedness. Now, something I've noticed is that danglers have a pretty bad reputation, and in many cases they definitely devalue your hand a lot. But when you have a hand like this, even though we prefer to replace the 5 with a 10, the 5 is a much better card than, say, a 6, because it gives us an opportunity to make the wheel. This might not seem significant, but over the long term, these little margins make a big difference on your profit. Finally, 3-betting very aggressive openers with hands like 3 Broadways and a suit is a good strategy, because you'll frequently flop better combo draws in made hands that dominate their 3-bet calling range. Anyways, back to the action. The big blind cold calls, and so does our aggro friend in the cutoff. The rest of the hand plays itself, and in true PLO Quick Pro fashion, my student gets his money in as a 55-45 favorite, and holds on to scoop a nice pot. The last thing to point out in the hand is what the cutoff turned over. Pretty nasty, eh? I want you to promise me that you'll never call a 3-bet with a hand like this out of position for the rest of your life, okay? Because calling 3-bets with hands like this is for people who don't like money very much.